Welcome back, nail queens. In today's video, I have a long one for you of showing you how I dip this chunky glitter dip powder from Soul Dips. It's called Queen of Hearts. It's got a lot going on in it. It's a thermal changer. It's got chunky hearts and little small pieces. So let's get started. First things first, I want to clean my nails with a lint-free wipe and rubbing alcohol because I want to apply full coverage tips. These are these small almond tips from Soul Dips. I absolutely love them. They fit me perfectly. So I, for the most part, already know my sizes, but I'm just double checking them to make sure they are fitted properly. And then I'm pulling them out, setting them to the side over on the right, but you can't see me do that. And I will glue them on once they're all fitted. So again, they're the small almond. They come in 12 sizes, and the middle finger doesn't fit me 100% perfectly. This size is a little too large, but the smaller size, the size down, is a little too small. So I picked the larger size, and then I use a hand file to trim it down over where the cuticle and sidewall is to make it the perfect customized fit for myself. And what I like to use to glue them on lately is this FastBond air dry glue from Diva. It is a very thick air dry glue. So you can see it coming out of the tube here. It is thick like builder gel, but it air dries. You don't need a nail lamp. So this stuff is great for people who are allergic to gel, can't use gel, or if you're on the go on a trip and you don't want to bring a nail lamp with you, but you want to do your nails, you want to do full coverage tips, or if you're doing nails for your friends and family, but you don't feel comfortable working with like gel, extend gel, or any kind of builder gel or jelly tip glue to adhere it, you don't feel comfortable using a gel for this, definitely recommend this air dry glue. So I'm going to take my activator. This is my dip powder activator, and I take the brush and dab it under there where the free edge meets, where a little glue is visible, and that starts the curing process to harden the glue. So just like dip base, glue and dip base are very, very similar ingredients like super glue. So if you put activator on it, it's going to harden it. So that's my life pro tip for you. I'm also dabbing it around the cuticle area to make the sidewall just set a lot faster. Once that's done, I'm moving on to the next nail. Bam! You see how quick that is? Well, I am kind of fast forwarding through here. So it was a lot slower for me to do this process, but I want to show you guys how incredible this glue is for applying any kind of full coverage tips and then dipping on top of them. So I'm basically done gluing on all of my tips. I'm just putting the cap back on, putting that in my drawer, and I'm going to let them air dry for a couple more minutes before I get into dipping on them. But before that, I have to file the little tabs that are on the edges. Almost every single full coverage tip like this has a little tiny tab of plastic there at the free edge that you should definitely just file off before you dip. And it's very easy to do, you just do it very gently. Now the moment you've all been waiting for, dipping in Queen of Hearts. I have a lot to show you guys in this video. It's a lot longer than my usual videos because it's going to be very, very detailed. So this is my dip powder base bond liquid. So you'll notice on all of the nails how I apply it. I usually start at the middle of the nail, work towards the cuticle, and then bring the brush down the sidewalls. This helps me with liquid and brush control to make sure I don't have too much liquid near the cuticle area or on the nail in general. Then I take a blunt edge precision tool, clean around the cuticles, and then get rid of any glitter pieces, like chunky pieces that are hanging off on the edges, sidewalls, and they're just sticking up because they're really not really well attached to the nail. So you can see me removing them here because they're just really just hanging in there but not really stuck on there. Since this is a chunky glitter and the goal is to have all these glitter pieces on it, I am taking my base bond and dabbing a little bit here and there and manually placing the hearts where I want them to lay. I don't do them very symmetrical like some point to the left, some point to the right, some point downwards. It is what it is. They point the way they want to. But for me, in this dip powder in particular, it's very important to have a layer of chunky glitters at the bottom because, as you can tell, the base of this nail, like the color, is not very glittery overall. So to make up for that, I'm manually placing these chunky pieces here. Just for another go, I'm putting my brush in the center of the nail, and then you'll notice I'll put more liquid, but I'm going to inch towards the cuticle area now, and then bring it down my left side wall and my right side wall. And the reason for this is because when your brush first hits the nail, the most amount of liquid is on the brush at that moment, and you don't want to start at the cuticle and work your way down. You want the most amount of liquid to be at the center where the apex of the nail is. So I'm just taking that precision tool, cleaning around the cuticle one more time, and then placing and moving around any excess glitters that are sticking up but not really there. Some are usually piled on top of each other. One is stuck on there and the other one's kind of like clinging to dear life. So I just use some tweezers. I can wobble it a little and then I'll notice which ones are hanging on and which ones are really stuck on there. So I'm going to repeat that process on all of these nails. First application is on, it's a little splotchy. You notice in the cuticle area of a couple nails. That's because the dip base dried really fast. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to apply dip base to a couple of the nails where there's not a lot of hearts and manually placing those hearts like I did on the very first nail that I did. Now, some of my nails, the free edge is a little wonky, specifically my index nail. So before I go in dipping, I'm just like fine tuning that shape just to make sure I'm not adding more to that bulk and that wonky nail shape. That's why I just did that little bit of filing. Now I'm repeating the dip base layer and I'm going to dip into the powder again. And this one picked up a lot, like a lot of glitter pieces. And this is why I love wearing gloves when I'm dipping, because I can touch all these things and not be afraid to get nail glue or dip base stuck on my other fingers on my right hand because I'm wearing gloves and it's not going to stick to the glove. Whereas if I wasn't wearing gloves, it'd be getting stuck all over my hand and it's a pain in the butt to try to remove later on. So I'm using my tweezers to move any glitter pieces that are hanging off or not really stuck on there as well as other pieces. And I'm using my glove to pat down what I can. But if you don't have a glove, I recommend getting a sandwich baggie, like a Ziploc sandwich baggie, and using that to help press down any glitter pieces so that you don't get glue stuck to your hands. Now, another thing I like to do is use my activator liquid, and I'm going to pull it out right here and douse the nail in activator. Yes, I'm doing this so that the hardening process can begin. So I wait like 5, maybe 10 or 15 seconds for the activator to do its like magical chemical reaction with the dip base. And then I take my glove and I just press and roll my finger over the nail so that it helps the glitter pieces lay flat. If you notice you have a chunky glitter sticking up and you haven't activated your nail yet, right after you activate it, about 15-20 seconds later, use a glove or a sandwich bag, like a Ziploc bag, to help you roll those pieces flat. So I'm going to repeat the dipping process on the rest of these nails, and I'll be doing that activator trick on the rest of the nails very soon. Alright, I'm back, and when the dip powder fully dries, I do use a stiff dusting brush just to dust everything off and really assess the situation, how much clear dip powder I'm going to have to use, how much filing and buffing I'm going to have to do, if I need to do any touch-ups and add any extra glitter pieces, things like that. It's important for me to evaluate before I add clear powder to my nails. So my pointer finger is looking a little jagged, like it needs some work, but the rest turned out pretty good, pretty flat for the most part. I'm very, very impressed with the rest of the nails. So I think this will be a good teaching moment to show you how I deal with very wonky and thick nails versus ones that turned out very desirable and favorable. I'm taking activator and applying it to the nail. And just like I did before, I am going to use my glove to press and roll the glitters down. So you'll notice me here do this to all of the nails. In most cases, most of the glitters are already laying pretty flat, so I don't have to do a lot of work in pressing them down, which will come in handy later on when I have to apply clear powder to the nails. I don't want anything sticking up when I do that. So now I'm going to take a hand file and sharpen the side walls. Just make sure that the shape is truly rounded out, looks like a true almond. When you apply dip powder to your nails, it really bulks up the nails pretty quick. So definitely before you apply your clear dip powder, but after you activate, file those edges to make sure that the glitter didn't thicken things up too much. I get a lot of questions from people and they're like, hey Carol, isn't applying activator to your nails but then dipping on later on with your dip base going to ruin your dip base brush? It could, but here's how you prevent that. Take a lint-free wipe and rubbing alcohol and generously wipe any excess activator off of that nail and let your nails completely dry. Once the rubbing alcohol removes and evaporates any excess activator, you can go ahead and dip on top of that with more layers if you need to, or like I'm doing here, to apply clear powder over top to encapsulate the glitter so that when you file, shape, and buff the surface smooth later on, it doesn't ruin or tarnish your glitter pieces. After dipping your nails in the clear dip powder, you always want to run this little cuticle stick around your cuticles to remove any excess powder. The powder might be clear, but it will still get stuck up in there, so you want to make sure your cuticle line looks nice and smooth. I also use my glove to just tap in the clear powder into that base and any holes that might be there on my nails. So this index finger is a little jagged. I decided to file and buff a little bit on the edges, but without touching the glitter pieces that are on there. Now I'm going to encapsulate the whole nail in clear dip powder. I have a feeling I'm going to have to do this one twice, simply because it's a lumpier nail than the rest of them. So upon inspection, I can tell this nail is not super smooth, but I expected that because of how lumpy it is. So it's not uncommon to have to go in with 2 layers of clear powder if necessary. I usually try to stick to 1, but sometimes things are inevitable because the nail turned out too lumpy. So I'm dusting off the excess clear off of my thumbnail so you can see how smooth that looks, and I'm running activator over it. That way I'll be able to file and shape and buff that nice and smooth in a moment. Now I'm going back into that same index finger that I did already earlier, and I'm applying my second layer of base to this and going in and dipping in the clear dip powder. The dip powder I'm using here in this video is the 6-ounce jug from Sparkle & Co. It's their clear powder. It's $50, but if you're a subscriber, you get 20% off your purchases. And I like to purchase it around Black Friday because you get an additional 20% off, and who doesn't like some good savings? So I get this 6-ounce jug for a very, very good, decent price around Black Friday every single year. So I'm just going to repeat this same process of dipping in the clear powder on the rest of my nails. And while it's not pictured here, I did use the stiff dusting brush and dust off the excess clear powder off of my nails. So I did that in between shots, but it's a little repetitive, so I just told you I did it and I didn't show you I did it. Then I applied another generous layer of activator to all of my nails. I'm going to let that set for a couple minutes, and I'll be back to file, shape, and buff. I'm taking these pink buffing blocks here, and I'm buffing the side walls, cuticle area, free edge, and then the top of the nails. That's usually how I like to focus my buffing routine, is I focus on the side walls first, then the cuticle, free edge, and then the top. And it comes out pretty smooth almost every single time that I do it. Now I'm taking a lint-free wipe and rubbing alcohol, cleansing that so I can give another look and good inspection once all the dust is removed. You can see things a lot better. So now I'm going to move on to the pointer finger. This one is going to need a little extra work because it's a lot wonkier. So I anticipate I'm going to have to pull out my e-file to work on this one. Generally, I believe that you can do all your filing, shaping, and buffing with a hand file and a buffer. You don't need an e-file to do this process, but sometimes it does make your life a lot easier. So I am going to pull out the e-file that I got from the Painted Desert and use that to clean up and really help smooth out this nail. So you can see it's not perfect, and I want it to look perfect. So I'm taking this medium grip bit. It's a ceramic bit, and I'm going around the cuticle area, close to the side walls. You have to go very slow when you do this, but you want to move fast across the nail. You don't want the bit to really hang out on top of your nail, causing too much friction and then causing heat, which that heat spike can feel like a burning sensation. So I'm cleaning off the nail. I'm pretty satisfied, but I'm going to use the e-file again on a couple more nails. I did hand file and buff the rest of the nails, but I want to do a little touch-up work with this e-file. And if you guys wanted an updated review on this portable e-file from the Painted Desert, while the price may seem a little steep in terms of what you're getting for a portable e-file, usually you can find them on Amazon for like 10, 15, sometimes 20 bucks. This thing has some power to it. It is a very, very powerful e-file, which makes me feel like the $50 price tag that it has is totally worth it. Like, it doesn't stop running when you apply a little too much pressure. I don't feel any heat spikes or anything. It's powerful, it's tiny, yet mighty. So that's my updated review on the Painted Desert portable e-file. If you were on the fence about purchasing it, I definitely like it. So I'm dusting everything off, and then I want to reactivate all of my nails. But before I do that, I'm going to cleanse them all with rubbing alcohol. So now going in with the activator, just giving it that final harden and cure. And I don't feel like putting a top coat on, to be honest. I love how this looks matte. So I'm just going to enjoy the mani as it is matte. So I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out while I did this video on how I apply my chunky glitters and get my nails nice and smooth with the chunky glitters. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button because I have videos coming every single week. Bye!